Away, please, is a second communication. Honourable members, I wish to make the following communication, which relates to a request for post facto approval of withdrawal of money from the contingencies fund of the Republic. Article 223, Clause 1, paragraphs A and B of the Constitution allows the national government to spend money that has not been appropriated. The provision also stipulates the following qualifications for the spending, and I quote: A, the amount appropriated for any purpose under the Appropriations Act is insufficient or a need as a reason for expenditure for a purpose for which no amount has been appropriated under the Act. Or B, money has been withdrawn from the contingencies fund. Further, Section 22, subsection 1 of the Public Finance Management Act of 2012 provides that not later than 2 months after making advances from the contingencies fund, the Cabinet Secretary responsible for finance shall to table the reports under Order Number 5, after which it shall stand committed to the Budget and Appropriations Committee for consideration. I urge the committee to pay particular attention to the report with a view to guiding the House on how to proceed with the request for approval. I thank you, members.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Member for Gishugu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is petition number 130, public petition number 136 of 2018. I, the undersigned, on behalf of the residents of Gishugu constituency, drew the attention of the House to the following: that an elaborate and well-maintained road network is essential infrastructural establishment for facilitating and spurring socio-economic growth, movement of goods and services, and opening up regions for investment. That Kutus, Kianyaga, Kiamutogo, Gedore, Kibogo Road in Gishugu constituency, which is about 30 kilometers long, has been in sorry and dilapidated state for many years. That the contractor for rehabilitating and or upgrading the said road to bitumen standards was awarded the contract in 2006, which is Gypsy Construction Company, and works commenced thereafter. That the rehabilitation and construction of the said road has been on and off and has only covered about 7 kilometers stretch. That to date, works on the said road have stalled, and the inordinate delay in rehabilitating the road has exposed the incomplete section to erosion, while some sections of the already tarmacked sections have started wearing out. That further delays in completion and the dilapidated nature of the said road has caused untold suffering to the residents since movement of the people, goods and services have been hampered. Mr. Speaker, that efforts to resolve the matter with the ministry have not borne any fruits. And Mr. Speaker, the matter in respect in which the petition is raised is not pending in any court of law, constitutional or legal body. Mr. Speaker, therefore, your humble petitioners pray that the National Assembly, through the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing,
about that road, Mr. Speaker, even in our constituencies, there are similar loans which have been given to contractors. They are given even the 10% to mobilize to the site. And then the 10% you cannot even see that work, Mr. Speaker. Alone to notice Nkobo, Kamurita, Kedhirona road in my constituency, which is still under the same situation. The contractor has finished more than 8 months, and you cannot see anything on that road so far. So, Mr. Speaker, this is an opportunity for the ministry actually to take stock of all those stoned projects, because for sure, our 90 are not getting value for their money, and the contractors out there, they are rendering, and such contractors should just be stopped, and those works given to other contractors, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, of course, I think, because I believe many members may make similar comments like yours, I think these are matters that we ought to put together and present to the chair of Transport Committee, so that on an appropriate date, that committee can invite the Cabinet Secretary and all those who work under him to appear before the committee and respond to the various issues that I'm sure many members have concerns about, because I'm sure when he comes before the committee, he will come to deal with this one. So he may not know what is the problem in South Mugirango, for instance, or West Mugirango. I'm saying this because I can see some requests by members in those areas, so that the comments should be on this particular one, so that it should be, because it will not be helpful. Of course, it may be desirable, of course, for other purposes to appear that you are also concerned about some delayed completion of certain other projects, but we are only dealing with this. Member for South Mugirango. West Mugirango, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for the opportunity. I, right from the beginning, agree with your directions regarding this particular petition, because, Mr. Speaker, this morning I had a similar question that we were dealing with the committee, where, Mr. Speaker, I had raised an issue where the contractors have really delayed a lot of work. In my constituency, I'd already been given about some few years ago. It was supposed to have been completed early in January. It was not completed. But given the opportunity and since the CS came, he was quite elaborate. He really explained the measures that the ministry has taken in a way of ensuring that these contractors are brought to book. Once they delay the work, the ministry has already assured us how it can be able to deal with them. So, Mr. Speaker, my opinion was that as a member of the committee, if the member could really approach this issue in a form of a question, so that he can also be able to get an opportunity one-on-one with the CS himself, so that the CS can be able to really explain what steps he can be able to take so that he can be able to solve this issue. Because my understanding of the petition, Mr. Speaker, is that the committee can deal with the petition itself without even involving the CS himself. Therefore, my opinion is a question will do better, Mr. Speaker, where the honorable member will get an opportunity one-on-one to deal with the speaker and also raise other issues in which he can be able to be addressed. So the issue of question can do well because it will give him an opportunity one-on-one with the CS. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Nyaribari Church.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to also put in my words concerning the petition. The Speaker, it's true, as the member has said, that we are, as a country, some parts of this country are hurting because we are not able to move our product from the farm to the market, and that's because of the bad roads. And we appreciate that the President, His Excellency, the President, Uhuru Kenyatta, and his deputy have committed to ensuring that we have good roads in the country. But, Mr. Speaker, we want to ask them to make them proportional. If they're giving 20 kilometers per constituency, let it be 20 kilometers per constituency. There are cases, Mr. Speaker, where they have given in one constituency a lot more than they have given to other constituencies. Some constituencies have not been given a single raw seal tarmac at all. And I think that is not fair. We need to find a more amicable, a more fair way of distributing this road network in the country. Because when our weakest link in the country is going to succeed, then all of us are going to succeed as a country, and we need to emphasize that a lot more, Mr. Speaker. I agree that this would have been best placed in as a question, because then we'll have an opportunity of contributing a lot more. But nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, it makes a lot of sense, and it communicates on behalf of most of the members who are here present that we are hurting because we are not able to move our produce from the market. And you know, one of the infrastructure that makes marketing a lot easier is the road network. If we can do it and succeed doing it well, Mr. Speaker, all of us are going to achieve the anticipated growth of the economy, which then has a ripple effect, because when the farmers are going to succeed, even the taxes we pay to the government are going to go up, Mr. Speaker, because taxes are based on consumption. The VAT, which we pay based on how much we are going to consume, will go up because we will have the cash power. Members, most Kenyans will have the cash power to use their money to do that. But we need to enable them, Mr. Speaker, and make sure that they have the capacity to supply their goods without interruptions. Like in my constituency, Mr. Speaker, Keroka and the Kiumbu.
Now, the rules of relevance. When you say like in your constituency now, and this petition is specific about a single road somewhere in some constituency.
I was using it as an example to demonstrate
please.
my point, Mr. Speaker,
See,
but I'm guided.
This is why we say it is not good really to take the opportunity to do other things. Just stick to the point. This road, do you know where it is? The issue, just talk comments about that road.
I hear you, Mr. Speaker. I'm guided accordingly. My neighbor here is reminding me that
Just comment about this one.
all the roads in Kenya, Mr. Speaker, need help, and we need to find a more amicable way so that all of us are getting a fair share of the cake of the infrastructure, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I support.
Maybe I think the Honorable Kosing will have to bring a report here one day to discuss about the roads in the country, so that everybody now will then be able to say what is obtaining in their constituencies. Finally, the member for Nyando.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you. It is true that the inordinate delays by contractors in this country, and particularly the one before us, has not only denied this country an opportunity to get value for its monies, but again, it has denied us other many opportunities that should accompany establishment of new roads. We always have very stringent deliberations on the Public Procurement and Disposal Act. And there is always a very elaborate system upon which a contractor is identified and is given contract to do a road. And if in the course of these duties, they then reverse and backpedal and do not do what is required of them, I think it is important for the government to step in and perhaps cancel such tenders so that we do not have these delays that do not really work for us. Mr. Speaker, our president makes various trips abroad to go and negotiate for funding so that our roads and other infrastructural developments can be in good shape. But again, if our contractors would then betray that will that our president has in the other parts of the world, then it doesn't sit well with this nation. And therefore, something needs to be urgently done. Now that you have said we need not to mention particular roads, I am gagged, but you know, Kisumu Boys Mamboleo Road in Kisumu, Mr. Speaker, has had this delay that has taken way too long to be put into use. And a Hero interchange that has also been done by another contractor who has employed the same inordinate delays also needs to be tackled. But Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Both are coming here to say that you have a report. This is to encourage you to act on petitions with speed and dispatch. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Thursday, November 13th, 2018. The statement on the approval of payment from the contingency fund from the National Treasury and Planning. 2, the report of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following constituencies for the year that ended 30th June 2017 and the certificate therein. Gishugu constituency, Thika town, Molo constituency, Njoro constituency, Chapalungu constituency, Madhira constituency, Madhioya constituency, Kipipiri constituency, Kinangop constituency, Maragua constituency, Kabete constituency, Ruiru constituency, Laikipia West constituency, Lari constituency, and Laikipia North. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act 2015, submission of the statutory 6 months preference and reservation report for the period between January to June 2018 from the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority. Mr. Speaker, as I lay this particular paper, this last one, I just want to put it on emphasis on the report from the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, which is on a state corporation and county governments that have either complied or not complied with Section 157 of the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act of 2013, which requires all public entities to reserve not more than 30% of tenders to the disadvantaged groups that include youth, women, and persons living with a disability. I hope, Honorable Speaker, that the relevant committee to which the report you're going to refer to will study this report and move the House to debate it at an appropriate time. This will bring to fault the issue of rationalization procurement quotas, and these issues, Mr. Speaker, have been canvassed more on the social media and other forums than the floor of this House.
Leader of Majority, you have the report on the contingencies. Contingencies? Okay. Very well. Chair or Vice Chair, Committee on Regional Integration.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, November 13th, 2018. Report of the Committee on Regional Integration on an inspection visit of the Namanga One-Stop Border Post, Kajiado County from 7th to 10th April 2018.
Very well. Chair, Education and Research.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, November 13th, 2018. Report of the Departmental Committee on Education and Research on the inquiry into alleged sexual assault of students at Moi Girls School, Nairobi on 2nd June 2018. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, Vice Chair, Chairperson, Select Committee on Delegated Legislation, or Vice Chair, Fatuma Gedi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, November 13, 2018. The report of the Committee Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Judiciary Fund Regulation 2018. Thank you.
Chair or Vice Chair, Departmental Committee on Health.
Yeah. Thank you, Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, November 13th, 2018. Reports of the Departmental Committee on Health on 1. The ratification of the protocol to eliminate illicit trade in tobacco products. And 2. The joint action policy day and the 7th International Symposium on Hepatitis Care in the Substance Users held in Lisbon and Cascais, Portugal from 17th to 21st September 2018. Thank you.
Chair of Finance.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, November 13, 2018. Report of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning on its consideration of the County Pension Scheme Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2017. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, members, allow me to recognize members of the Welfare Committee of the County Assembly of Kiambu who are in the Speaker's Gallery. They are welcome to observe proceedings. And 2, in the public gallery, members of Timau AIPCA Men Fellowship, Bori Constituency, Meru County, 51 members, and students from Starehe Boys Center, Starehe Constituency, Nairobi County, 6 students. They are welcome to observe proceedings in the National Assembly this afternoon. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Honorable Meli. Are you?
I'll make a presentation, Mr. Speaker.
You're supposed to give
Yes.
notice, is it? Or you don't have it? Chair Health or Vice Chair? Honorable Mohammed.
Thank you, Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion. That this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Health on the ratification of the protocol to eliminate illicit trade in tobacco products, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, November 13th, 2018. Thank you.
Vice Chair, Honorable Meli.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to give notice of the motion that this House
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopt the report of the Committee on Regional Integration on an inspection visit of the Namanga One-Stop Border Post, Kajiado County from 7th to 10th April 2018, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, November 13th, 2018. Thank you.
Very well. Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
First question by the member for Kuresoi North, the Honorable Deputy Speaker.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 42A5, I beg to ask question number 132 of 2018, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. A, what is the status of completion of the Nakuru Total Eldoret Highway interchange? B, is the Cabinet Secretary aware that the design of the interchange currently lacks service lanes, underpass, U-turns, pedestrian crossing points, road signage, and street lighting, among others, particularly in the Total area of Kuresoi North constituency? And C, what steps has the ministry taken to ensure that the project is as per the set standards. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. You see, this is better than a petition. Referred to the Committee for Prioritization. Next question is by the member for Trans Nzoia County, the Honorable Janet Nangabo. Honorable Janet Nangabo, Wanyama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise on question 134 of 2018. Is the Cabinet Secretary aware that there are fresh claims of abuse of the migrants in the Middle East leading to the loss of lives? B, what is the status of bilateral labor laws which Middle East countries like Qatar and Saudi Arabia regarding the safety of Kenyans migrants workers? C, what measures is the ministry putting in place to ensure safety of the migrants workers, recruiting agents and licensed by the ministry, and that Kenya seeking employments in Middle East do so through licensed and registered recruiting agencies or through the Ministry of Labor? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, referred to the Parliamentary Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations. Next question is by the member for Malindi constituency, Honorable Aisha Jumwa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question is directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government, that what measures has the ministry taken to ensure that one Pastor Paul Mackenzie of Good News International Ministry in Malindi Town is stopped from preaching against children going to school, seeking medical care, and acquiring IDs, voters' cards, birth certificate, among other crucial national documents, contrary to Article 43 and 53 of the Constitution of Kenya? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Referring to the Committee on Administration and National Security. Next question is by the member for South Imenti constituency.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 137 of 2018. And my question is directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. That why Uruko and Uko locations in South Imenti constituency served by Kariene Police Station and Gidongo Rockouts, respectively, which are in Central Imenti constituency. What steps is the ministry taking to ensure administrative boundaries are aligned with the sub-county constituency boundaries for efficient service delivery? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Referring to the Committee on Administration and National Security. Final members, the last question was by the member for Dagoretti North constituency, Honorable Simba Arati, who is out of the country on official committee duties. And therefore, the question is deferred. Member for Kimilili, you have a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I really want you to give guidance, Mr. Speaker. We have some cabinet secretaries who will appear before a committee and provide an answer that is completely different from what was told, Mr. Speaker, especially in the Security Committee, where you will see them photocopying the occurrences in the OB, as opposed to providing a suitable answer. And I think, Mr. Speaker, unless you give direction, this matter of members asking questions and you don't get suitable reply is going to defranchise Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, especially in terms of really getting proper answers for questions that are asked, Mr. Speaker. Because we do not have a way where a member who is not satisfied with the question on what should be done. Can we bring back the question or, reframe it, or what happens to the Speaker? Thank you. I thank you.
I hope members were listening to what the member for Kimilili, the point raised by the member for Kimilili. And this again is a matter that goes to the chairs of committees. Chairs of committees must know that when cabinet secretaries or whomever appears before them to answer questions, they must be relevant. The answers must be relevant to the questions asked. And if the answers are unsatisfactory even to the committee and the chairs, they are at liberty to send back those cabinet secretaries with strict instructions as to when they should provide suitable answers. It's not an opportunity for cabinet secretaries to come and relax and come with whatever answer. They must give answers that resonate with the question, not just any answer. And the chairs of committees are at liberty to send back those cabinet secretaries. At that time, you can decide what time you want them to appear back to respond. Don't pamper anybody. Don't pamper anybody. Honourable members, they are supposed to give answers that are satisfactory. And the questioners are also, of course, advised to be skilled consistencies, even in the response given by the cabinet secretaries. The fact that questions are being responded to in committees doesn't mean that to draw the attention of the chairs as to the inadequacies of responses given by cabinet secretaries. Remember, when you sit in committees, the committee is a replica of the House. And we will not take just any answer in the House. It must be an answer that satisfies. The member is not asking a question for purposes of appearing to ask a question. You most likely want to elicit action by the responsible cabinet secretary, because you discuss and deliberate and resolve issues of concern to the people. That must be understood utmost. So, Honorable Barasa, I think is a good point. The responsibility goes to the chairs of committees and their deputies to make sure that the answers you get, first of all, the chairperson of our committee must be fully seized of the question. Obviously, you receive the written response also, read through it, so that even as the cabinet secretary or whomever is responding, you can see whether the response indeed is one that fits the question. Is it the answer that really even you would have been satisfied if you are given? And if you think it isn't, be at liberty to send back with whatever directions to the cabinet secretaries. So don't allow it. Don't make it appear like it is a lesser sitting. It isn't. We never intended that the appearances by cabinet secretaries before committees to answer questions would be a lesser occasion than if they were to appear before the plenary of the House. So, chairs, please take note. Before we move to the next order, I wish to announce to the House that today at 6:30 p.m., the House will move into 0 hour after being moved by the Honorable Captain Ruenda Obo, member for Lamu County. 0 hour. And I hope members take it that way, not what the Honorable Chris Wamalwa refers to as the happy hour. It isn't the happy hour, it is 0 hour. 30 minutes, Honorable Ruenda Obo will move the House. Next order. Honorable Tonui, yes, you have an indication, sorry. Member for Bomet Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to seek your guidance on questions which requires answers from independent commissions. I have drafted some and have been hanging in those offices since July because I made to understand that questions which are brought to the House are only those which requires answers from the cabinet secretaries. How are we going to oversight the independent commissions if questions cannot be raised and be answered by them through this floor? That is the guidance I am trying to seek from you. Thank you.
Honorable Tonui, in the architecture of our Constitution, you are perfectly right in posing questions to those independent offices and commissions. And except on matters to do with finances, when they appear before either, or accountability, when they appear either before Public Accounts Committee or before the other committees like JLAC and others, I think they should appear, the leadership of those commissions and independent offices should appear before the relevant committees of the House which oversight them. But perhaps you need to bring to my specific attention the issue that you may have raised so that I can give proper guidance. There's no reason why your question should remain unanswered, if indeed it has been properly directed. In some of them, on minor matters, some other offices, ministries, just as titular heads may appear, but even then, they can only appear in company with those responsible for those commissions. I don't know which specific question, Honorable Tonui, you want.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your response. You have drafted 2 questions which I expected response from Salaries and Enumeration Commission and also Parliamentary Service Commission. And I thought once we trap them and pass it through to come to your office, it reaches you. I am surprised that it never reaches you, because maybe we may not do it personally to deliver it to you, but it's drafted in these offices up here, especially room 8. And I do believe once we have drafted a question in room 8, it comes to your office automatically. So since July, they have been hanging in that room. Maybe you will provide guidance administrative, if it should reach the order paper, or it should never appear in the order paper. Thank you.
Honorable Tunui, you know, I always fast-track members' proposals. Why would I give orders that they should never appear in the order paper if there are questions, really? It's just that I'm not aware, and that's why I'm at a loss, because I know you are particular, as a trade unionist, among others, you have interest in the education sector. So, and that's why I was guarded in the way I gave you a response. Because if it's a question about education, even though you may have interest in the TSC, really the matter should be responded to through the Ministry of Education. But I don't know. I'm now also groping in the dark because I haven't seen your kind of specific question. maybe you could approach the clerk at the table and the matter can be resolved. We'll deal with it, certainly. What is your intervention, member for Lugari?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, I've been a guest of the House for some days, but I wanted to comment on this issue of cabinet secretaries appearing before committees. Some cabinet secretaries don't take matters of the committee serious. I would propose that we change the standing orders, we bring them to the dispatch box when the House is actually the committee of the whole House, so that they can be able to answer questions and to interrogate with the other questions so that they can answer us properly. Because when they go to the committee, at the committee session, they answer a question or two questions, then they say the time between 10 and 11, they have to go and attend to other matters. They don't take parliament serious. We just amend the standing order.
Other than the cabinet secretaries themselves. So if you do that, then of course you shoot yourself in the foot. Remember, every response must be signed by the cabinet secretary, not by any other functionary. If it is written, it must be signed by the cabinet secretary so that the House can act on it. So that even if it is read, like the member for Kiharu seems to be reading as he makes his way slowly, even if it is read by some other person, it is still an answer from the ministry. But what is important is that the committees must make sure that whatever answers they receive, they meet the standards. Unfortunately, apart from the chair of Labour, who has drawn my attention to some issue, and we are going to take action. Honorable Ali Wario, I am in receipt of your letter, and we are going to take action. If a person does not appear, and the committee determines that it is deliberately failing and or neglecting to appear before it, the committee should make the relevant decision and communicate. We issue summons under the Powers and Privileges Act. And if they don't come, then we will deal with them under that. You know who is not below we are not below the principal secretary. And we tried as much as possible to capture what used to happen in the former system. That if a minister was not present, the assistant minister would appear and read the answer from the minister and be able to respond to other supplementary questions that members may raise. But if members are not satisfied with the answer given by whomever, the cabinet secretary or those others, the committee is at liberty to determine one way or other that this is not satisfactory. Can you go back and bring a satisfactory answer within 7 days? This is what I'm telling you. The committees are replicas of the House. You have the same powers. So if you decide not to exercise those powers, therefore, please don't blame any other person. It is yourselves, the chairpersons. We are too early in this 12th Parliament for us to now not to start complaining. We amended the standing order specifically to give those powers to the chairpersons of committees. So let us see the chairpersons also beginning to exercise or flex their muscles, but of course within the law. The exercise must be within the law. Remember, the answer is not supposed. There's a way you can see what answer has been given. How does it respond to the question asked by the member? It used to happen even in the former system. If a minister gave an answer which was not satisfactory, the House, the member could rise and request the Speaker to direct that a more satisfactory answer be given. And that used to happen. You can ask the Honorable Duale, the Honorable Jimmy Angwenyi, both of them served as junior ministers, and they'll tell you. It used to happen. If you brought an answer which was not satisfactory, you are sent back with it. Come and go and bring a better answer. So, chairman of committees, Honorable Pukose, now flex your muscles. Honorable Aden, Honorable Wario, now flex your muscles. We don't want members to say that when cabinet secretaries are called to appear before committees, they think that they are appearing before a lesser form of the House. No, that must never be entertained. Such a thought would be misplaced. So let's not complain beyond there. I think you have it all, chairpersons of committees. You have it in your hands, and members. Let's move to the next order now.
Order number 8, motion, report on the audited financial statements for the Political Parties Fund for the year ended June 2017. Question to be put.
Well, honour members, debate on this motion was concluded, and what remained was a question to be put, which I hereby do. This House adopts the report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on audited financial statements for the Political Parties Fund for the year ended June 2017, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, August 29, 2018. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as the contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 13 of 2018.
I see there's a point of order from the member from Makweni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity. Mr. Speaker, this bill was moved and seconded, and Mr. Speaker, in my committee, on page 412 of the matter on the Cooperative Societies Act, Mr. Speaker, we had a report which we prepared, the Minister of Cooperatives and the peers having appeared before our committee, and they disowned these amendments and said they never originated from their ministry nor from the cooperative movement. The cooperative movement also was summoned. But now, Mr. Speaker, this matter has now been moved and seconded, and this bill is owned by the Leader of Majority, the Honorable Duale. Probably we could have a direction whether we're still going to deal with it or it's expunged from the records, Mr. Speaker, if you could guide.
Leader of Majority, what is the response?
Mr. Speaker, number 1, the Honorable Manzo must declare his interest in a matter of this nature. But having said that, this bill is before the House properly. And he purports to speak for the Minister and the PS. This bill came from the Cabinet. We have a Cabinet memo. It came through the Attorney General. And I will advise him, if he can speak for the Minister and the PS, then I have just shared with the chair of the committee, the best thing he can do is he can go talk to that Minister and that PS, and they write a letter to you and myself saying that, so that we can deal with the appointing. In case when a bill of government is before the House, like the Minister for Health, in the Health Laws Amendment, wrote a letter says, can we step down radiation, a number of bills? And that's a record that's available at the clerk's office and my office. But what Honorable Manzo is saying from that PS and that Minister can be treated as rumors. And if he feels he has a problem with that bill as a committee, the bill will go to the committee of the whole House. The amendments will be put. And I am sure, Mr. Speaker, until the same government writes to me on their reservation on that section, I stand by the Cabinet memo and the letter from the Attorney General that sent this bill to the Leader of Majority and to the Clerk of the National Assembly. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Manzo, one time, he has a very rich history. He has a very rich history. No, he didn't reach PS. That's a higher level. He was a secretary for cooperatives. You know, to be a PS, you have to be vetted by the House. So I have no record of Honorable Manzo being vetted by this House. But he was the Secretary of Cooperative. So he has a lot of interest. And that's why he talks about the cooperative movement, the SACCO. I have no problem with it. This bill is proper in the House. Contrary to his rumors, then he should table a letter from that PS and that minister, which I can transmit it to the appointing authority that chaired the cabinet session that approved the bill. In government, they don't work in rumors. They work through communication.
Sorry, yeah, honourable members, I just want to get the point by the honourable Manson. Were you saying that there's some story you got from some peers, or what was the issue? Sorry, there was another member who was consulting me, so I didn't get that particular bit. What was the nature of your complaint?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, when this bill was first read, my committee did summon the minister in charge and the PS in charge. They appeared before our committee and we made a report. And they made a recommendation that at anyone's given time, and they appeared together with the cooperative movement and its leadership, they never proposed this sort of law, whether through cabinet or whether through any system from their ministry. And therefore, it is a stranger to them. It's a stranger to them. And we made a report, and that has reached the Honorable Duare. But surprisingly, it is still now, on page 412, the Cooperative Societies Act, CAP 490, it is still on record. My understanding then, when the minister appeared and the PS, was that it be expunged from this miscellaneous bill. We have a report as a committee, and it's been tabled. It's been tabled. That report has been tabled in this House, and the Honorable Duale should have taken notice of that.
What are you saying, the report of your committee?
Yes, a report of a committee.
It recommends what?
In relation to these particular amendments appearing in the miscellaneous amendment, that the ministry says they are stranger, that they never originated these particular amendments, and no one owns them. The amendments on the Cooperative Societies Act, CAP 490.
Very well.
On social investor.
Very well. I can give direction immediately. This is very simple. It's only that I have not heard what you are saying. I thought you are raising an issue of constitutionalism. But the matter you are raising is one on which you, as a member, can persuade the rest to reject that particular provision in the statute law miscellaneous amendment bill. I'm aware that there is pending before this House a standalone proposal to amend the SACCO societies. Is it SACCO Act or something? And I think it is pending before committee. It's coming to committee of the whole House. So as it is now, since the mover of the bill says the bill is properly before the House, and I think it is, what is left for the House is, if Mr. Manzo is able to persuade the rest, is to reject the proposed amendments. Because that argument is not constitutional as to whether that a PS or a CS are saying this or the other. What they say is not is, if it is in your report, that should be the more reason why you should now be distributing, telling every member, go and get a copy of the report so that you can help me shoot down this proposal. But at this point, really, there is nothing out of order. The debate on the bill should continue. The bill was moved. It was seconded. So what remains now is for debate to continue. This is second reading. Honorable Amalwa, is it about contribution or about a point of order?
It's about the same thing, Mr. Speaker. You know, while you were away, Mr. Speaker, we were debating last week on health laws.
On?
And health laws. And we realized, Mr. Speaker, when members come, they have conflicts of interest. You know, it happened with the pharmaceutical. And Mr. Speaker, it is good when we are debating. It's also good for the members to show, to disclose.
Honorable Amalwa, for your information, I was seized of the debate I followed every aspect, even the recometo, all those things. I'm fully aware. As you know, these days, we are well connected, isn't it? So, and I know the action that you took as a house to deal with that particular aspect. But you may proceed.
I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's good to note that you are digital, Mr. Speaker, even if you are away, miles apart. But again, Mr. Speaker, it's not that this House can veto the committee recommendations. It does not mean that when you've done public participation and a committee has given a recommendation, that's automatic. It's you to convince the entire House to go with you. It's not guaranteed. And Honorable, who is a very good lawyer and is doing his second term, I expected him to have known this, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
So maybe he has not. He will begin moving around to try and persuade. Honorable Asheli, you also want to weigh into this one?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also wanted to add my voice. Mr. Speaker, it's a tradition in this House that whenever this House is going to debate on a bill, they also have to compare with what the committee's opinion. But this kind of bill, Mr. Speaker, has involved quite a number of other committees. Therefore, it may not be necessarily one committee to write a report that the House will have to compare with. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I think we need to treat this the way we treat other bills. And just like Honorable Amalwa said, that even if the committee has a different opinion, this House can still decide otherwise. Therefore, even if the...
So when a cabinet minister says, I do not know where this amendment has come from, Mr. Speaker, that is the concern, and I think we may be guided on that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, unfortunately, they don't appear before me to say that. If they did, I would be able to exercise my authority appropriately. And that's why I've just reminded the chairs of committees that they have a duty. When a cabinet secretary appears and denies a bill that is government bill, that is very serious. So, what they need to, you need to, is a matter that actually that could even lead to their removal from office. If it is a bill, and the bills that come through the office of the leader majority pass through cabinets, they are looked at by the office of the Attorney General, all of who confirm that they have paid due attention to the provisions. So you may not agree with the proposals in the bill, but you are bound by collective responsibility as a cabinet secretary. So the chairs of committees, again, you are called upon to pull up your socks. That's a matter on which immediately that day you should have alerted the leader majority that there is a cabinet secretary who is, so that also the leader majority could appear and hear the viva voce evidence from the cabinet secretary who is denying origination of a government bill, so that the leader majority then would be able to
and introduce fingerlings through the Ministry of Fishermen, who literally
to ensure that the labeling of this statement. Thank you.
The member for Gishugu, Honorable Gishimu Givinchi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the statement by Honourable Member for Lamu, and actually, it's a bit unfair for the Kenyan community of the situation of the good bilateral trade relationship with Kenya to import even things that we can be able to produce locally. And it's also unfortunate in the same line that cheap labor or labor from outside this country can also find its way into Kenya, whereby we have we have expertise and the local community is also crying that there is no enough jobs. So when, like even the coast where we have the ocean, and also even in other areas like even Mount Kenya, we also have rivers that can be well developed, and some places we can also have dams whereby people can be able to farm even fish. Actually, it's a very lucrative business even from in my place where I come from, that is Gishogo. You find that people are also developing dams, and when they have already used their money, resources, energy, and even time, then we find very cheap fish coming from outside, which we don't even know how it was even grown. So this statement comes at the right time, and we support our president for taking that initiative, and even other products that you can be able to produce locally. Madam Speaker, we will support the government in ensuring that we don't have anything coming into this country, including rice, which comes from Kirinyaga, and other things that we can be able to produce locally so that we can be able to safeguard the interests of our people. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support.
You rise to support the member for Mwea, Honorable Wachira Kabinga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also arise to support this very important topical issue. Madam Speaker, the issue of importation in our country needs to be addressed in a very serious manner. President for the ban on the importation of fish, it is important that we understand or we get deeper into the issue to understand who in the first place authorized the licensing of importation of fish in this country. We need to understand what data informed the need to license that importation, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I stand to support this because I know that this country, for example, is importing a lot of rice, despite the rice that we are producing in our own area in Mwea, that is producing more than 105,000 metric tons of rice. Before we consume that rice, Madam Speaker, we receive a lot of imports, and these imports, we don't know who is licensing. These imports are not informed by any data. These imports are coming from areas where we are getting food that have been reserved for many, many years. And as a way of disposal, the
Honorable Kaluma, you are not on Duale. The card, no. You cannot speak. You cannot speak. And how did you get Duale's card? You found it there. Then we cannot identify you as Honorable Duale. And then you go and even sit on this desk. Yeah, Honorable Duale, yes. You are requesting to speak using Honorable Duale's card? No, I'm not requesting. How did it get the request here?
The place where I'm sitting, Madam Speaker. I apologize. I want to speak as myself.
And when I called Honorable Duale, you rose. Please, I cannot allow you to speak Honorable Duale because the records will show you Duale was speaking.
Yeah.
Can you use the dispatch box if you don't have
I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the judicious exercise of discretion. Madam Speaker, I come from a constituency which is deeply associated with fish. And Madam Speaker, we may be forgetting, but we have the capacity as a country to be the nation exporting fish to other countries. I think people think we are only talking about fish stock from our lakes and internal water bodies, which are several, Madam Speaker. But we are forgetting that our exclusive economic zone in the country is over 200 nautical miles
into the sea. Madam Speaker, I joined the team of Kenyans as a lawyer on law of the sea then, which delimited the maritime areas in Kenya with the Kenya Navy. And I can tell you, going deep into just 50 nautical miles, we could not sustain ourselves there. There is nothing like China or any country as a sea area which is bigger than Kenya. Is that we have not developed our capacity to exhaust the resource in fish stock and under our exclusive economic zone. Even our territorial sea, which is 20 nautical miles into the waters alone, are not enough. So I join my colleagues in thanking the President for putting a stop into this importation. And I would request it not be limited just to China, but any nation importing fish or whose fish is being imported to Kenya should be stopped. Madam Speaker, as we do that, may we think of how we better, fish production in the country. We are giving a lot of money each year, Madam Speaker, towards fish production. But Madam Speaker, you would confirm with our records that while least it is associated with a place like Nyanza province, there is nothing like aquaculture. There is nothing like, fish ponds being done there. We are, teaching people to produce and love fish in areas where we cannot produce to the level where it is commercially, gainful. So I wanted to request His Excellency the President that this is a good step towards stabilizing this industry. I believe if we stabilize the fishing industry, the contribution of this particular area to the GDP would be higher than what the move of this important motion, has placed before us today. If we can move firmly in that direction, let us take this as a step towards, maturing this sector. So that when you go to Luo Nyanza, Madam Speaker, today, what you are told today is that Luos, merely, eat what in the local language there they call mgongowazi. The fish fillets are brought to Nairobi. The Luo who has been associated with fish eating, remains with a skeletal framework to boil and unleak like we are animals there. We want a situation where if we are going to invest in aquaculture, we take those things to places like Nyanza. And I know this one was part of the economic marginalization, which went to some sections of this country. With the handshake, the peace in the country, which is